Oi you, it's time for another episode of Dorothy and the Dealer. Let's tune into the conversation.
Hey Mitchie, how you going?
Good afternoon. I think it's the afternoon, isn't it?
It is just the afternoon.
It is.
I'm really excited today because we get an opportunity to talk to somebody who is very near and dear to our hearts, actually.
Sure.
We met about a year ago, wasn't it? It was about a year ago that we met. Yeah, about a year
I
ago.
remember this young soul sitting in the audience, hungry to understand.
I remember us having a conversation. So welcome, Kimberley Wenya Lou. How do we say it? Kimberley Wenya?
My full name is Kimberley Wenya Lou, but my brand name is Kimberley Wenya, so my first
Kimberley
and
Wenya.
Second name.
There you go.
Cool.
Welcome, Kimberley. How are
Thank
you today?
I am so good. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, we love talking to you at any time. And I think that it was good. Before we get into the podcast though, actually, let's start by the normal thing, which is a song. So what song is on your mind, top of mind, or that you're singing right now? What's your favorite song?
It was Mr Brightside, which is kind of like the Bohemian Rhapsody of my generation, I feel.
Oh, let me hear a couple of lines.
I don't know if I know the lyrics, but I'm coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. Because I want it all.
Yes.
Isn't that an old song though, isn't it? It's about 10 years old.
It's not.
From like the thousands, early.
Right. And who sang it? Was it 9 Inch Nails? Was it?
The Killers.
Oh, the Killers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
cool.
Good. That's really good. I like how you made it to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes. Of my generation.
Yes.
Just reminding us that we're a little bit older.
Yeah. Should we just burst into Bohemian Rhapsody right now? No.
Okay. So Kimberley, normally.
Can I put a bit of context behind who this cat is? This kid is great.
Well, let me do this first, because normally we have, as a client guest on Dorothy and the Dealer, people normally have done relationships anew with us, and you haven't done that yet. You've been booked in for over a year, and due to life circumstances, we haven't been over in Melbourne for this year, and so we haven't been everybody's been grounded this year, so we haven't been able to do that. But that doesn't mean you haven't been working with us, and you've been doing so many things. You signed in straight away to Inspired Life, which is being Mitch's personal client. You and I have had many conversations over the year, and then you also are working on your business with us, doing Evolve with us. And we just wanted to have you on and just talk to you about your experience so far, and also just your take on some things in terms of your business and stuff like that.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons that I was very happy to get Kimberley on here when we chatted about bringing her on. I think that one of the great things about Kimberley is she has a very clear intention about what she wants to deliver to the world. And she's very, very committed to making sure that she gets that delivered. And so the fact that, she's registered to do relationships in you and she hasn't done it yet, that has not stopped this young lady from getting proper traction, proper rubber on the road. So it's a great message to share with any business owners and young entrepreneurs that are out there.
So tell us a little bit about what you do, Kimberley, in terms of your business, because you came to us last year and you were doing this business. So tell everybody about that, or tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run Kimberley Wenya, which is named after me, and I am a manifestation and mindset mentor. So I mentor many women across the world on creating their dream lives through understanding universal laws, through understanding energetics and vibration, emotions, mindset. And I think what has been so pivotal for me is to truly deepen my understanding of universal laws and bring duality into it. I think there's so many manifestation coaches nowadays, when like only 3 years ago, I was looking on the podcast app and everything was like, this guy in a suit teaching about law of attraction. And I was like, there's no females or Asian young women. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and do it, even though I was studying to become an osteopath. And ever since then, it's taken off. But more so, I just love bringing duality to it because I think it's really lacking in the field. So yeah, that's basically what I do.
Cool. I think one of the things is that there's a process of learning, and when you set your intention of what you want to do, you're clear about what you want to deliver. There's a process of learning. You have to start to get past that, you know, how can I explain it better? There's lots of information out there that is not congruent with laws. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of information out there which is a lot of the time just regurgitated information that's not congruent with the laws, but there's something that clicks in the pursuit of balance and understanding laws, that when that clicks for us, you know, we're able to understand that whatever we've learned was necessary for that time. But once you get, you know, the savage appetite to understand homeostasis and balance, equanimity, and the laws that are designed to keep us in that place, and what true attraction actually is, and that, you know, creating something in your life has actually got a formula to it, and it's actually very real because you've already created things in your life, and the more you understand that formula, so there is a stepping stone of going through that. And I think everybody has to go through that, and over the past year I've watched Kimberley really do that and do it very well.
So do you think that just because you've always been doing this, Kimberley, and like, how long before you met us were you doing this? Because you've been with us.
Yeah, I was doing it for 2 years.
2 years before. Right. So do you feel like, because our view on manifesting is very much based on universal laws and principles. So it does include the duality. Were you always like that when you started approaching the manifesting? I'd love to know how it all started.
Absolutely not. Because okay, so when and part of it is because sometimes it's really hard to find the content. Sometimes it's actually like what you find is very positive thinking oriented, very about changing your thoughts to think only positive. And I remember getting so much resistance to that. I remember first, probably 3 months into my personal development journey, I was listening to a very well-known person who, or whatever they are, talking about law of attraction, talking about manifestation, and they were saying, feel into the positivity, feel like go up the ladder. And I'm like, I'm going up the ladder, but it's really hard to stay up here. And I realized that it's not meant to be like that. So, but only fairly, I learned it pretty early on, but I was like, no, I want to start experimenting. So I kept on experimenting for 2 years. I experimented and I got so far to a certain degree, but I was limited as well because I could only live my life in a positive mindset for half of the time. So I realized it has to be more to that. But yeah, early on, I was always like, no, you got to feel positive. And it worked, but it also limited myself.
Well, you're right, because it only works half of the time, right? It only works part of the time, and the other part of the time you feel shitty because you're not there. You know, you're feeling down on yourself because you're not in that positive state. So what shifted that for you, do you think?
Really, you guys really helped me to understand duality at such a more grounded level. I'd heard about it before, but not in the way that I could understand it truly. So I think it was when I met you guys at Mastering Money and
Mastermind Money,
and that was the event that I was really like, hold on a second, like I know I've heard this before. I thought you could do it the other way, and I realized no, I'm gonna, even though it's harder because it's more challenging to accept something that you think, you know, for the longest time everybody else is doing really well with this subscription to this certain thought, so you think that it works because everyone believes in it. But then I realized no, something in my intuition never settled with that. So when I really went to that event, then I really realized, okay, like my intuition's been calling me to this. Now I need to rebuild my own understanding and teach from there.
Yeah, because it's like, it's harder in the way that, well, for me, is especially before this point, that you think you've got to be plus. So you don't want to own the negative, but it's not about owning the negative out there. It's about owning the negative in here. And so you, in trying to be plus, you're trying to suppress the other side. And when you try and do that, it doesn't work, right? It comes up and rears itself. So is what you're saying the difficulty in learning to love the part of you that you don't actually like? Is that what you mean was the difficult part?
I think it was that too, but also just understanding that I was in the mentality that if something went wrong in my day, I wasn't positive enough, or I was doing it wrong. And that's such a you know, a misconception.
Yeah.
And you know, you and oh my gosh, okay, so if you want to get really real, I remember going to dinner with you guys after that
Yes.
event,
Mhm.
and just sitting with you guys and seeing how you guys spoke and realizing that, oh my gosh, like you can say stuff like that. I remember you said something, Mills, where you were like, you said the word expensive or something, and I was like, oh yeah, you can use that word because it's neutral. Like you can't. I used to be so afraid of using the word expensive, but then I realized, no, if you're truly empowered with money, you can say expensive, and it's just relative. So
Mhm.
yeah, so many things shifted for me to see that.
Right.
Do you think it was a challenge to let go of that old mindset? Do you think it was, you know, because a lot of people are really hooked into that stuff, you know, and it just sets, because like we're always saying, you know, you're trying to collect coin, trying to get rich collecting coins that only have one side. It's just not possible. So did you go through, I mean, I'm asking this question but I know what you went through, but can we share a little bit about how it was for you having to let go of that?
It was really, really hard because I had built my brand on that. I had built my understanding on that. And when you do that, you think that, okay, if I change all of a sudden, people are going to be like, what the heck? But, you know, I think just being transparent with my audience, which means you told me to do this, and I knew deep down that this was the right thing to do.
Mhm.
It just helped people. I got so many messages on Instagram of people being like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for telling me this, because it gives me permission to be human.
Yeah.
That really changed things for me too.
Yeah.
I think that it is very difficult when it's your brand and when it's something you've taught. I remember we went through that when we taught Mastermind and Money. Originally we taught it. It was the seminar was called Alchemy and You. And we had our wealth principles. We'd been doing them for years, but we hadn't got them. We'd been practicing them, and we were doing them the other way around, and we were teaching them that way. And then we realized what the issue was and what was going on with that. We had to shift all of that around. And for us, it was like, shit, we've been teaching this wrong. And so it was a duty, and it was important that we did it. But it's also like, you feel like, oh fuck, why didn't we get it right?
Well, I think that what's important there is there's an intention and a pursuit.
Yes.
Of getting it right, you know, for the want of a better term, but to keep it in layman's terms, you have an intention to get it right, to deliver the right message. And I think when I was working with Kimberley to be able to do that, I said, just be transparent.
Yeah.
Just let people know.
When your intention is clear, then it doesn't matter. Because
otherwise you're going to get through the rest of it being fraudulent. And the thing about it is that you don't want to do that until you really know, okay, if I'm going to move this message, I really need to know that what I'm moving it to is correct.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that I think that's really what it's about, because you feel like, oh my God, have I, you know, am I going to piddle everybody off? Have I ripped everybody off? Have I, you know, are people going to be mad at me? Because, and they're normal feelings, but that all that does is it just shows that, you know, you have a deep intention to do the right thing by people.
Did you also have, do you also feel those, I think you've kind of said it already, but having those feelings made you feel a bit like a fraud around like communicating this message and then having those feelings of having to change things?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, but the more that I was just compassion, well, I don't know if the compassion is the word, but the more that I was just loving to myself and understanding that this was just a little girl inside me who was trying to understand how to do this, and of course she was going to make mistakes, the more that I also knew that everything was imperfection and the people who needed to hear that heard it. But also it's been interesting as well in my journey, because I've also realized that in this transition period, there was also a period where I fully was like, oh, I did everything wrong and like rejected everything. And then I came to understand that not everything that I was teaching was incorrect. It's always, you got to understand, it's just about filtering through what really still resonates with my intuition and balance and duality. And so I had to come almost to another level of balance where I was understanding that, oh, there was so much truth in some of the things I was saying, and combining it then with duality. And now I feel like it's home, you know?
Well, not just chucking it all out just because it was what you did in the past, picking what was right and what was authentic and what fit, and then the rest of it leaving behind.
But I also think that it was true for you at that time. You 100%. Know what I mean? Like I remember reading books like, you know, Absolute Happiness, which was so one-sided. It was all happy, 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 happy. And I was like, this is doing my nut. I can't possibly spend my life like this. And then, so I'm not allowed to be sad. Oh, fuck, okay. So, and then I was getting around the world, pretending to be happy all the time when I was, dying of the flu, because when I die of the flu, I die 100
I'm
deaths.
sure
Or I'm, and I'm like, oh no, I'm happy. I'm just breathing into the pain. And so, do you know what I mean? So it's just not possible. So, but I think at the time it was very important. It's a bit like the movie The Secret when they talk about, they talk about the law of attraction. And I remember going, wow, the law of attraction. But then I innately knew that this is only one side of things. This is not true. And so I think that as much as for the masses, the movie The Secret was great because it started to talk about laws, which people had no idea about. I mean, innately, there's a reason you don't fling yourself off the chair and, jump onto the ground because you're going to hurt yourself. But we know that innately laws are inside of us, but we didn't know anything about how they work and the importance of laws. Laws are super important because, as we say all the time, the quality of your existence, meaning how great you live your life, is dependent on how you understand the laws, and the degree to which you suffer is proportionate to your ignorance or the part of you that doesn't understand how life works. So innately I had that in me, and in watching the movie I was like, this is a little bit one-sided, and I think that, like I said, the delivery of the movie was to deliver to the masses that there are laws, which opened up the minds of so many people around the world. But it was imposing.
It was still a lopsided perception.
It was a lopsided perception. It was imposing a singularity on a humanity that commands both sides. From the macroscopic to the microscopic, it's dualistic.
Yeah. So, Kimberley, tell us, since you are the manifestation expert, tell us something you've manifested. Some cool stuff you've manifested.
Okay.
I'm thinking of one thing in particular.
Well, I manifested my dream car, which is the Tesla Model 3.
Do you love it?
Oh, I love it so much. Like, I'm so grateful every time I drive it. I'm like, this is cool. But also, I made a vision board back in 2018 when I first started my business, and everything on there has come true. Like, I traveled through, I became a digital nomad and traveled and ran the business overseas through Europe. And that was a dream come true too. Just, and having my dream home. We're now up leveling again soon, probably in the next month, finding a new home, which is a new level. So so many things though.
So tell me about the car.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, what about it? I feel so
just
embarrassed.
How you got it. No, tell me how you got it. Like, so tell me what your process was.
Can I tell a little first story there? The first time I ever started to become successful in terms of working with people, I remember the first car I bought, and I bought a convertible Honda S2000, and it was literally, it had like 6,000 Ks on the clock. It was just and when I get into it, it was just like this roaring little sports car.
Yeah, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah,
I was cool.
It
was cool
because I tricked it out and lowered it and put 20-inch rims on it, exhaust pipes, and all that sort of crazy stuff. And I remember driving up to my office, and I would hide my car around the back of the office because I didn't want my clients to see my car, because I didn't want my clients to see that out of them paying me, I was able to do this, right? And and then one day my wife stopped me and said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just don't want the clients, I feel a bit." And she was like, "But that's exactly what you want the clients to see. You want the clients to see that, Mitch, if you can turn your life around from where you were to where you are now, and tell that story, if you just bring hope to people that if you can do it, anyone can do it. Like, if you think about where you came from, anybody can do that." So how was that for you in terms of, I mean, it was a big investment. A Tesla is a big investment, very fast car as well.
Well, I think that, okay, so I think the thing that comes to my mind immediately was mainly the fact that, because I had just been traveling and staying in really nice places, I was spending a lot on my accommodation, and then just coming back, I remember someone from, before I had started the business messaged me, and they were like, "Wait a second, you just bought a Tesla? Like, you just went traveling. How did you afford that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." Like then I was like, "Okay, receive the compliment. That's okay. Like, that's nice." But I think that even just like noticing that that and just being so grateful really, really helped me to realize, no, like this is what I want to show people, that yes, you can have the things that you desire. You can travel and come back home and invest in your favorite car or something. But yeah, I think that there definitely were parts of me that were like, oh, you know, should I be showing that I'm getting my dream car? Like, shouldn't I be telling the audience that first I got a shitty car and then I got the Tesla? But my first car was a Tesla, and I felt kind of like, oh, you know, I'm that spoiled, you know, girl who got her dream car. But no, I worked my ass off for this. I saved for it and everything. And I think that that made me even more unapologetic to share with people. And I think, you know, still sometimes it's part of me like, no, don't be showy about it because you don't want to be proud. But then at the same time, like, no, it's a balance. I got to show my lifestyle to help people realize they can create their dreams.
Yeah. And it's actually quite, at the end of the day, it's quite humbling, you know, when we're feeling that part of us that doesn't want to show it. All that is that part of us trying to actually humble ourselves and to realize, hey, you know what, you did work really hard for this. You know, you did invest a lot of time and energy and money into actually growing so that you could become a teacher, you know, and you've got to earn the right to do that stuff. And when people follow you and they listen to you, it's because you have something to share, you know, and you've worked hard to be able to share that stuff. But it's, you know, for me, when I look back on who I was when all of that happened, I realized that it was just out of compassion and empathy and care and understanding for my other people around me that I was trying to hide it. And then I realized the best way to be compassionate and caring and understanding is to actually step up into who you are, Mitch, and be yourself.
And there's a difference between doing that and being showy at the end of the day, because that's just your authentic, this is me, you know.
But I'm really fucking showy.
Having said that, you're also showy.
I am Mr. Showtime.
Look at me with my fast car and stuff like that.
Yeah, my new shoes, my watches, and I am definitely.
We were out here after Mastermind and Money a few weeks ago, and my nephew was here, and he goes, "That car doesn't look that fast." So Mitch deliberately drove it by and revved it up. Just to say, hang on a second, sounds fucking fast now, doesn't it?
I call myself a proper wanker.
You are
a proper wanker. Absolutely. I'm the person that drives past and thinks, oh my God.
So I think there's this conception or misconception that manifesting is kind of this woo-woo thing, and that it's, you know, it's all airy-fairy and I'm just going to meditate and I'm going to get my Tesla. That's not how you go about it, obviously. Can we demystify it a little bit and share a little bit of your process and how you, because it's not just sitting there going, I'm manifesting, I'm talking about it, I'm thinking about it, it's going to, you know, there's an actual process that you use, right?
Yeah, completely. I think that when it comes to just the macro things that I, you know, share with my audience and things, it's mainly, well, first of all, working on the mindset, making sure that you are changing your thoughts to see how things are serving you. Also, you know, creating thoughts that are helping you to achieve your dream life and making that your priority. But I take action really, really seriously. I think that if people were to kind of look into my life, they would be confused and they'd be probably thinking, wait, you teach on manifestation, like not just, you know, hustling? And like, no, yeah, I teach, it's about a balance. And every single day, the one thing that I'm always asking myself is what's going to move the needle today? What's going to move the needle today? And I'll just list the top things and just take action on those. But I like to see it this way, that I'm taking actions, but I'm also allowing the universe to amplify those actions and create extraordinary results rather than just average or sub-average results. And
I really like that.
Thank you. So, and I really believe in that because I created a 6-figure business while studying full time, and I had under 3,000 followers on Instagram, and I was building my audience there. And that's pretty crazy to hear that. Usually people will have a lot more followers than that. So I believe in both taking action, but also harnessing the power of the universe and energy and aligning yourself with the universal laws so that you can really get the bang for your buck and for the action that you're investing.
I think that's the biggest issue that I think a lot of people who've got this concept of manifesting is that they think that they just thinking it is going to get it to happen. And that's only part of the process. It's not the whole process, because obviously you have to have the thought, because it's not going to come to you unless you've got a thought. So of course it's part of the process, but you can't just sit and think and then it's going to arrive. You have to take action, and you've got to take inspired action. But I love what you said there, that when you take the action, that you consider that every action you take, the universe will amplify it, because you've put that intention in place for that outcome for yourself. So you set the outcome and then you go about doing things. So like we say all the time, if you want to get to, we're in Perth, if you want to drive down south to Mandurah, you're not going to sit there and go, I want to get to Mandurah. You have to actually get in a car, or you've got to choose a bus ticket or a train ticket or something and actually do something to get yourself over there. You can't just sit on your ass and expect for it to happen.
Yeah,
I
think there are, I think that there are steps, and I think that when we're in a state of flow, life naturally amplifies anyway and feeds back to us that we're in that flow state, and that everything is congruent with the outcome that we want, because we're feeling the outcome that we want before the outcome even happens. Because, as we say all the time, it's a great dispenser line, and the emotional signature in an event has occurred is gratitude, and gratitude is the emotional signature that an event has occurred. So the more you feel grateful about what it is you want to transpire in your life, the more you broadcast that with intensity, and to use Kimberley's word there, to amplify it more and more and more, the quicker it shows up for you.
Because you're resonating now with the outcome, even though your physical reality hasn't shown it to you. So you were resonating with the fact that you had your Tesla even before the Tesla showed up, right?
Yeah, 100%. And because I was trying to get everything sorted during COVID. It was when COVID was literally like raw. And I remember I had it was so many challenges, but I was like, no, it's already in the garage. It's already downstairs. I know it's there. And, with a couple connections, thanks to you as well, Mills, it all fell into place, but it's not like I just, imagined it. I had to take action. I was on the phone. I was, pushing for things. And so
asking the right people the right questions, or even just starting to ask questions so that you can get to the right people to ask those questions to.
But I think when we started to really research what was required to manifest and create something, the beautiful thing at the end of it all was that we realized that this was how we had been doing it the whole time anyway. There was no magic trick. It was just, we were like, oh my God, this is how I have the socks I have on my feet. This is how I have the shoes I have on my feet. This is how I have the home. I've been doing this the whole time. I just didn't know what I was doing.
It's about bringing conscious awareness to it, right?
Yeah, we become conscious to the process of what happens. And I think that it's important for people to understand that it's a process. And if you follow the process, you can create anything. Because people think like anything, you can create anything that you want. It goes against the laws of life to think that you can't. Do you know what I mean? And therefore, your biggest competitor is the part of you that says, I'm not able to do this. If my father couldn't do it, how am I going to do it? If my mother couldn't do it, how am I going to do it? That becomes your biggest competitor,
100%. So, can we talk a little bit about the challenges you faced in business? Your business has grown a shit ton this last year, right? Hasn't it? It's done a massive growth, right? And I know I say that, and I know that can sometimes be like, well, there are moments where it feels like that, and then there are moments where it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately,
that's business.
That's business, right? Yeah. But ultimately, if you look where you were this time last year to where you are now, that you've got a new base kind of thing, right? But through that comes challenges, or comes, I suppose, especially when you're dealing with people and when you're coaching people and helping people to transform their lives. It's like, I know for me, I teach what I most need to learn. And so as I'm teaching, like as I'm talking to someone, I'm like, oh, that's really relevant to what's going on in my life right now, this minute, it just, this person is there to show me that I've actually got the answer to my own stuff, and I just have to go ahead and do what I need to do, my work. But can you share with us some common sort of, or some I suppose, challenges you've faced and how you've overcome them, especially in business?
I think there are so many, and at the beginning it was a different kind of level of challenge to what it is now. Are there any specific ones that you want me to focus on? Or?
No, just I think.
Let's pick your biggest challenge. What was your biggest challenge? How'd you overcome it?
Oh, okay, probably. There are so many different ones, but probably creating new content that honors duality, and then getting behind that, and also probably being unapologetic about letting more people have access to my courses and receiving. That has also been a big challenge too. I think that when you're first getting into online business, especially, you got to train yourself almost to receive money, even though they're getting access to an online course, but you're not working. And I think doing that at a higher level, having more passive income, has been definitely a challenge that I continue to work on.
Right. Yeah. So allowing yourself to receive.
Yes. Yeah. Receiving. Yeah.
Did you notice as your influence grew, you attracted support and challenge?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's really easy when you're building a business, especially after the first and second year, for me, especially, that to think that, oh, am I rolling backwards? Like, this is the same thing that I thought, just like a year ago. And then I would take those moments just to see, okay, what has changed from last year to this year? Thinking things like, I have much more savings in my account. I'm dealing with my money a lot better. Things like, the clients that I'm attracting are totally on board with this new understanding, and things like that. And I think in me appreciating that, I realize and I honor the fact that I'm not backwards. I'm not in, that same place. It's just a new level, but it might be the same belief that I'm just elevating in, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Do you feel that as you've grown, that you've had more critics, like people that are criticizing you, or not complaining, that's not the right word, but more challenges from people that maybe don't know your work, or even that they do know your work and they're challenging on it? Have you noticed that as you've grown more, you get that praise, and that reprimand actually grows with you?
It's so funny because I don't know whether I have kind of like two ways that I see this, and I'm also like, I love to learn more about this. But you know what? It was kind of the opposite in a way, where the more that I was teaching one-sided, the more I was getting that like, no, this isn't this, like blah, blah, blah. But as soon as I switched to duality, it's actually very rare at the moment that I would get a message saying, oh, are you sure about how it kind of flipped, and I actually got more clarity with the DMs that I was getting through Instagram. So I'm not sure how I feel like, because I'm still small, I'm still a baby in business. This is only my 4th year, 2021. I think that the more that my audience grows, I'll definitely be seeing more of that, because that's duality. But at this point in time, because I'm still quite small, I think that possibly maybe I don't get as much of that.
I think that when we first kicked off, and any ridicule that we would get, was like, I remember I'd be just absolutely, oh my God, somebody doesn't like what I'm saying, or doesn't like me, or da 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 da. And it was, and so when we're dealing with kid businesses, and when I say kid businesses, I'm only saying it because I'm probably old enough to be your dad twice. But when you're dealing with kid businesses, and what happens is when that they're going to have to face that at some stage. That it's that shopping mall scenario. There's 400 people go past the cash register every day. One of those people is going to not be happy, and you got to understand that you need to be able to manage that. But I also found that when your challenge was yours, and it was based on building your business, your intention, your outcome, you attracted your own challenges. You didn't have time for any of that petty stuff. So when I see that petty stuff come into our organization, I know that at that moment, it's because we have our eye off the ball. Okay, we got our eye off the ball. If somebody's having a go,
getting distracted.
You're getting distracted by petty stuff. You've got to be able to go, keep your focus on the aim, keep your focus on the game, and everything's going to be all right. And so I always see that as that occurs for any business or any organization. And we deal with a lot of young business people, and we turn a lot of young businesses around. I always say to them, listen, not everybody's going to like you, not everybody's going to love you, and you better get over it. What matters is that you like you keep your focus on your intention, and you fight hard tooth and nail to be able to deliver that message. And you don't give up educating yourself. You learn everything that you possibly can. And as you have an insight from mentor to mentor or teacher to teacher, you turn that insight into your own insight, and you are okay to deliver that insight. And so I think that
well, I think I really like that about you, Kimberley, because you're here saying, you know, this is my experience, but I'd love to learn more, you know, and I think that I think to have that understanding that we're always here to grow makes it a difference. But once, like Mitch said, that you are clear and you're focused with your intention and your outcome, and you have set that challenge for yourself, some of the other stuff just becomes, it's not that it's not there, it's just that you don't notice it. It doesn't become a big part of your, it's not in your vision, you know, it's part of the periphery because of the fact you're so focused on your outcome.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because as I'm hearing you talk more, I'm thinking, no, like, where was it that the criticism came? And I just realized I found it. And it was, I had some really close friends in business who were very polarized towards, you know, being high vibe, being this, being positive, and they were the criticism. It wasn't from my audience per se, it was from those. And I actually had to, I distanced myself from these people, and they also, you know, wanted to distance themselves because obviously there was a clash of a very important business thing. And I spoke to Mitch about this, and I was so affected by it then. I was, you know, crying, and it was heartbreaking, but I'm so grateful that happened because I wouldn't want it any other way now.
But and I think that's important, especially for young people, you know, who will listen to this, who are in business or getting into business. And the fact that when I spoke with Kimberley, that she was so taken back by what happened, you know, just showed how, you know, her resilience to hanging on to the truth and going, no, we have to deliver the truth to people. We have to show people that this is reality and this is what life actually shows us. So I was saying earlier before we got on this, that, you know, this young cat has gone through a lot of what it took us years to get through. She's gone through in 12 months. You know, she's asked questions. At the last one that she was asking me was, the little bugger, the last one she was asking me was, she was like, okay, do you use a lot of DeMartini's processes? And I'm like, well, have I studied under DeMartini? I'm like, yes. And do we use his processes? You're not allowed to use DeMartini's processes because they're licensed, registered, and trademarked. But are there similarities? 100%. And you have to be completely non-ashamed about doing that. You take it, you know, your processes have to be uniquely yours, because you got to go to bed at night. You got to get up in the morning and look in the mirror. You got to look at people, and you got to be able to handle it and be able to get through those pointy questions, because people are going to ask you that. You know, people are going to say, oh, you know, you're just doing this, this, and this, and that's normally their stuff. You've got to be very, very clear that what you're building is yours. It's unique. And if you feel you need to ask permission about those things, for fuck's sake, ask permission. Because, you know, to think that anybody's sitting back keeping score and doesn't want you to get ahead is just not true. They're not a teacher if they don't want you to get ahead. You know, they want you to get ahead.
And ultimately, there's no such thing as a new idea. Everybody, we just make our own. We take we take from so many people, and many sources, you know, so many sources. But then we make it our own, and nobody does what we do in the way that we do it. And that's the same with you, right?
Absolutely.
The funny thing is, you know, when I first started studying Buckminster Fuller's work, right, I was like, you know, this man is dead since 1985, but this information is amazing. Like, people need to understand this information. And I was like, we got to get it back out there. So I would be talking about it all the time, coming from that space of understanding Fuller. But I think that that's where you build your intention at the end of the day, is because you want the truth to get out in whatever means necessary. And what's truthful for you is your truth.
Well, your way of, so this is the thing, I know for us, and then you can tell us about you, because we've been talking for 5 minutes now, but for us, it's like, this is the information, and this is I suppose the psychology behind, you know, like even with you, the manifesting, it's the duality, it's both parts and stuff like that. So we really are clear with the basics of how life works in terms of the universal laws, but how we deliver the message is unlike anybody else. Like, how we deliver that, nobody else delivers it in the same way, and that's where our uniqueness comes from. So we might quote other people at different times, but like Mitch just said, a dispenser quote, but that doesn't mean that how we present it elsewise isn't different. The same is for you, right? Did you have to go through that process of having, right, whose material is this? What is this? How do I make it my own?
100%. And I think that I I always thought to myself, okay, well, what are the things that KW is bringing to this and no one else can do? And you know, there's a great example is like, I had heard about duality before, but I never really grasped it until I heard it from you guys. And that means that there's something different about you guys and the other person that I heard about it with. And it's the same with my work too. I'm always thinking, okay, this is going to speak to someone who's been looking for this in this setting, the branding, or that way that I'm talking about it. And that's worth in itself, you know, the investment that this person's going to finally understand this to change their life. And so I really had to get that.
So who is your avatar? Like, who is your ideal client?
My ideal client is a modern woman who is dressing, I guess, in a way that I guess it's just modern fashion, whatever that might mean to you. But the reason why I say that is because manifestation has been coined to be really woo-woo, but she is between her 20s to her, you know, in her 30s, and she's looking to create her dream life. Maybe she's been settling in her life for, you know, years and years and years, or just doing what she thought society has told her to do. And basically she wants to know the truth about manifestation. It's not just that she wants to learn how to create her reality, because there's so many places you can do that. She wants to know the truth about it. She loves a good scientific understanding to kind of calm down the left brain. And she loves the energy of it and crystals and stuff. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
Yeah, that's really good.
I love that you're really clear with it too.
Yeah, you got, because it's so important. You got to understand who your avatar is.
Yeah,
you got to know who you're speaking to all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was there something else I was going to, okay, I was going to ask you one more question, right? So when you learn something different, right? And I know we've maybe touched on it a little bit based on the fact that you had to change everything around, right? But I'm not really talking about big things. I'm talking about when you learn something different, how does that shift how you teach, you know, and how you go about communicating that to your audience? What do you do differently? How do you communicate it?
Yeah, that's such a cool question. I love this, Bill. Okay, so if I really it gets me reflecting too. But I think that for me, it's staying true to speaking from my heart, because if I truly speak from my heart, it allows me to not think about integrating, but integrate what I've learned from the laws, but also integrate from things that I feel are true as well. So when it comes to energy or stuff like that. So I guess what's different is that I'm not just, you know, thinking that these are principles that people say works, and then I've tried and yes, it's worked, but it's kind of combining what I know to be true from my heart that aligns with the laws, and I speak from that place.
Right.
Does that even make sense?
Yeah, it does. So basically what you're saying is that it has to almost come through the filter of Kimberley Wenya. It's got to be like used, experienced, and then come through from your perspective as a real authentic sort of teaching. So it's not an intellectual thing, but it's even more than just an experience thing. It's about your experience.
Yeah.
And that's how you communicate. I love that. That's really cool.
Thank
Kimberley,
you.
you know what? I was thinking the other day, and even this morning as we were talking and about, you know, coming on to do this with you, the growth that you've had over this last year has been phenomenal, the way I see it. I remember speaking to you at Mastermind and Money. I know you put the principles in place, and I know they're still an important part of what you do weekly, or how, you know, regularly anyway, however often you get paid, and you do the cycle. But I think for me, the fact that you ask the right questions, the fact that you take action all the time, the fact that your intention is so on purpose and so clear. And for somebody, I know for us, when we see somebody in relationships and you and have that experience and have that moment and then go on to do all of this stuff, it absolutely lights us up. That's what we're here to do. And it really makes our jobs so precious and worthwhile. But to see that in somebody before they've done relationships in you is totally next level. So I can't wait for you to come and do that. And like with all of the energy and intention and everything you put behind everything that you do, I am so excited to have this conversation again in 6 months' time, in a year's time, after you've done R&Y, and just had that shift that will take you to this next level of gratitude that we just can't explain because we haven't experienced it yet. But once you have that as well, I think your life is just going to skyrocket. And that's not a me thing, or it's just about the fact that to me, that's a you thing. That's the fact that you've done all of these things, and you still have that last little piece of the puzzle I think that's going to really smash through that glass ceiling. And I think I'm really excited.
I think Kimberly's going to get sucked into that vacuum.
I think so.
And it's going to be like, and she's going to just turn into light.
Whoa.
And she'll be like, oh my God. But yeah, it's been magic working with you so far.
And it's been really, really lovely talking to you today, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. And I know we're going to come back and we're going to have another chat in a little while, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Bye.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
If you found this information inspiring, make sure you subscribe and tune in to the next Dorothy and the Dealer podcast.